Good morning, everybody. Minister of Agriculture, Honorable Alfred Prosper, Deputy Permanent Secretary in the Ministry of Agriculture, Dr. Wonderful Esnad, Chief Forestry Officer, Mr. Alwyn Donnelly, Director of Water Resources, Jason Ernest, representatives of Sustainable Development, representatives of the Green Climate Fund, Focal Point, representatives of the Jeff Focal Point, representatives of OECS, National Trust, all the heads of departments and all the agencies, specially invited guests, students, ladies and gentlemen, good morning. For those of you who believe in the scriptures and that there is a creator of all things, if you're familiar with the scriptures, it is said that the earth was created before mankind came to it. The earth and all that is in it were flora and fauna. And when we arrived, we were given it was given to us as a gift. In fact, we were told that we should have dominion over it, look after it, and take care of it. And so today represents the efforts of our forestry department and all who are part of this nation, who recognize the value of our forests, our flora, our fauna, and the importance of looking after it. I will seek to stick very closely with today's theme of the forests and our food systems. And so today I want to speak briefly about the nexus between agriculture, food security, livelihoods, and forestry. At the heart of this nexus lies a fundamental truth that agriculture and forestry are the two sides of the same coin. These two sectors are intricately linked, forming the foundation of food security, economic resilience, and sustainable development. Together, they will represent a powerful alliance that has the potential to drive progress towards a more secure, prosperous, and sustainable world and a sustainable St. Lucia. Agriculture, as we all know it, is the backbone of our food systems. It provides foundation for the food that we eat, the clothes we wear, and raw materials that fuel industries across the world. More than 2.5 billion people worldwide rely on agriculture for livelihoods. This includes not only farmers, but also workers involved in processing, packaging, distributing, and retail. Food security, the cornerstone of agriculture, is more than just ensuring that there is enough food available. It's about accessibility, stability, and nutrition. For a community to thrive, it must be able to produce, afford, and access nutritious food year-round. Agriculture systems are therefore not just an economic enterprise, they are essential to health and well-being. Yet agriculture faces challenges. Climate change, pest and disease, land degradation, market access are just a few of the pressures affecting farmers. In this context, sustainable farming practices become essential. Practices like agroecology, soil conservation, crop diversification ensure that food systems remain resilient in the face of these challenges. But we cannot talk about agriculture and food security without acknowledging the critical role of our forests. Forests contribute significantly to food security by providing fruits, nuts, and other forest products, mushrooms, herbs, directly supplementing our diets. They also provide timber, fuel wood, and materials for housing, contributing to local economies and livelihoods. In many rural areas, forests are a safety net, providing resources during times of drought, crop failure, or economic hardship. For indigenous and forest-dependent communities, forests are often their primary source of income and sustenance, and we know what goes on with the sustainable harvesting of the Makote mangrove in Vieux and the charcoal producers. But the relationship between forestry and agriculture is more deeply seated. Sustainable forestry practices can enhance agricultural productivity. Trees help to improve soil health, prevent erosion, regulate water cycles, and provide shade, all of which can support more robust crop production. In return, well-managed agricultural landscapes can act as buffers to protect forests from deforestation and degradation. The true potential of agriculture, food security, forests, the nexus between the two, comes from integration. Agroforestry, the practice of integrating trees and shrubs into agricultural landscapes, is a prime example. By combining the strength of agriculture and forestry, agroforestry enhances biodiversity, improves soil, fertility, and increases resilience to climate change. This integrated approach also holds promise for improving the livelihoods of our people. Smallholder farmers, who often face the brunt of climate variability, can benefit from agroforestry by diversifying their income sources and creating more resilient farming systems. By tapping into both agriculture and forestry markets, these farmers can reduce their vulnerability to market shocks and environmental stresses. As we trek forward, it is clear that policies must evolve to reflect the interdependence of agriculture, food security, and forestry. Governments, international organizations, and local communities must work together to create policies that promote sustainable land management, integrated agricultural systems, and forestry conservation. At the same time, collaboration between sectors, agriculture, forestry, environmental protection, and water is crucial. Rather than treating these sectors as separate entities, we must develop holistic approaches that recognize their interconnectedness. This includes investing in research and technology, knowledge sharing, and capacity building for local communities. In a recent conversation, a friend of mine says, if you observe today, we can produce food without soil, but we can't produce food without water. And the integration of water resources, agriculture, and the forest resources are critical to that particular process. Finally, the nexus between agriculture and food security, livelihoods, and forestry is not a distant concern. It is a reality we must address, and we must address it now and address it swiftly. We are at a place in our history and in our journey where our collective actions can either reinforce the cycle of degradation or set us on a path towards sustainable development. And so when we come to this particular facility and we see the nursery is booming with young plants and young trees, it's a gentle reminder that says to us that forestry is playing its part, not only in maintaining the natural forest, but also providing our farmers with fruit trees and other ornamentals that will enhance the beauty of our spaces, but ensure that we have access to food through agroforestry system. Today, as we celebrate the nexus between food and our forests, governments, policymakers, businesses, private sector, civil society, we must all commit to fostering synergies between agriculture and forestry. Let us invest in sustainable practices, support agroforestry systems, and ensure that the forests are safeguarded as essential ecosystems that contribute to food security and resilient livelihoods. You may not know, but I tell my friends, I grew up on a sustainable farmstead. I grew up on a farm that was about 2 acres wide. There were livestock, pigs, sheep, goat, cattle, chickens, you name it. We grew sweet potatoes, pigeon peas, red kidney beans, and for cash crops, we grew bananas in a separate location. You hear a lot about sustainable farmsteads. This is what a guy like me grew up on. And today, the Ministry of Agriculture continues in that stride and supports backyard gardening and has gone further to provide incentives for those persons who maintain backyards by giving you a tax return deductible. I encourage all here today to ensure that we continue what St. Lucia has done really well. And I'll tell you, just take a drive through Grand Riviere and you will notice there are fruit trees in virtually every backyard along that journey. It's a testament to the work of the Ministry of Agriculture over the years, ensuring that there are trees in our dwelling spaces. The backyard program is intended to ensure that we can support and sustain sustainable food security systems. And so today, let me take the opportunity to congratulate the Forestry Department and the Water Resource Department for the work that you have started, the work that you are continuing, and to encourage you to remain steadfast in the execution of your mandate, and to encourage all who are in this forum today at our own levels, in our own homes, in our own spaces, our communities, and within our families, take steps to ensure that we maintain our forests in its pristine condition, because these forests will inadvertently contribute to our food production systems. With this, I wish to say a thank you and have a good day.
Good morning again to you, ladies, gentlemen, children, esteemed guests, advocates. I know a lot of us, all of us here are advocates uh, for our country and our planet. Today, as we celebrate the World Forest Day 2025 under the theme Forests and Foods, we must acknowledge the vital role that forests play in sustaining not only our environment, but also our communities, our cultures, our economies, our livelihoods in general. This year marks a significant moment as we reflect on how forests contribute to the various aspects of our lives: food security, nutrition, and I would have said our livelihoods. It just reminds me of our very own motto in the forestry department. La forêt est c'est la vie. Now I have added la forêt est l'eau, c'est la vie, recognizing too that we are celebrating World Water Day, which is tomorrow, but we also recognizing commemorating World Water Day. Forests are more than just a collection of trees. They are simply, and I say simply, but they are complex ecosystems that provide essential resources for millions of people worldwide. But if we put that into our local context, for thousands of St. Lucians, as well. In St. Lucia, our forests are integral to our identity. There are countries, there are states in the Caribbean who cannot boast of having, forests like we do. So we are very blessed to have forests here in St. Lucia. And the forests, they offer us as the simple things, as fruits, nuts, roots or vegetables. You would have heard Pius mention things about wild meat, the cochon marron. But in the past, we would have our ancestors and even, our grandparents would have been feeding on, hunting birds and other wildlife. Well, at the time, it was fine, to hunt those animals until we had to take protective measures, to protect or to safeguard the livelihood of some of these wildlife species. Because the thing is, humans, when they subsist on some entity or some resource from the forest or natural resource, they have the tendency to use up that resource until it is finished. And this is what we don't want. A lot of this also blends into our mission: a healthy environment for a healthy and productive nation. So if we have a healthy forest, we will also have a healthy and productive nation. Together we can create a movement that champions the protection of our forests while ensuring security, food security for all. Let us remember that nurturing our forests is not just an environmental issue. It is a matter of our human rights. As custodians of these precious resources in St. Lucia, it's our responsibility to safeguard them for the current and for future generations. Let us work together towards a sustainable future where both our communities and our forests, can thrive. And I just want to remind you again, what our motto stresses in terms of la forêt, hectare, and I will add a glow, c'est la vie. Our forests, our soils, our water resources, they are all life. So we have to protect them. So let me wish everybody a happy World Forest Day, and by extension too, since tomorrow is World Water Day, let me wish everybody a happy World Water Day. Thank you.
Good morning, ladies and gentlemen, students. Today we celebrate International Day of Forests and tomorrow World Water Day. The theme Forests and Foods, I believe one day will emerge again as Water and Foods. In 2012, the theme was Water and Food Security. And we know that when it comes to agriculture, especially the importance of water in that sector. Just as trees are considered the lungs of the world, rivers are considered the blood of the earth. Like a body, one cannot exist without the other. When forests are protected, water resources are protected. Simple. And this is beneficial to every aspect of life. World Water Day is a day for reflection, to reflect on our relationship with water. Water can be a friend as well as an enemy, sometimes in the same instance. It can be treated as treasure and later as trash in the same year. Be what it may, we cannot do without it. We all use water on our way to getting here this morning. And I must say just a quick, yesterday when I arrived at my home, I realized that I lost all my water, my potable water from my tank. But thankfully I had rainwater, so I was just able to move to one room and continue using water as normal, right? And our daily routines imply that it should always be available on demand. We always want water on demand. There is nothing wrong with that mentality, but adaptation processes must be implemented to ensure that this practice continues. The variability of our climate is creating a cat and mouse scenario where the complexities of providing water to all sectors are increasing, and in parallel, the demand continues to grow. Once where we grew to depend solely on the water utility, that is unfortunately coming to an end. We must be part of the water equation and be soldiers to the cause of building resilience. This is by understanding the benefits our forest contributes to our daily lives, not treating our waterways as garbage dumps, making an effort to understand how the water supply system works and how best to help ourselves continuously improve water availability irrespective of the time of year. Lastly, I would just like to mention that the theme for World Water Day for 2025 is glacier preservation. Glaciers make up almost 70% of freshwater resources. This includes water in the ice caps as well, on the mountaintops and also the ice caps. If these go, we know the expected consequences, right? Sea level rise, saline intrusion, loss of our coastal areas, our economy affected, lives and livelihoods, all of these would be affected, right? And the forests, through mitigation actions to combat climate change, that is to reduce greenhouse gases, is the leading solution for continued preservation. So this shows the importance of our forests to our daily lives and also to combat climate change. Forest and water are a winning combination. the Forest and Lands Divisions and the Water Resources Management Agency are working to preserve this patrimony, and we call on everyone to join us as we move forward in this regard. I thank you, and I would like to wish everyone a happy World Water Day 2025 and a happy International Day of the Forest 2025.
I listened to all the presentations before me, and it was really speaking to the issues of the importance of forests, the importance of water. And I'm sure our young people benefited tremendously from this knowledge. But I would like to divert a bit from all the benefits and all the good things that we know our forest and water play. And to tell you that for those persons who were attached to the forestry department in the 70s and 1980s, the challenges that they faced during this time of year particularly. This time of year, you would drive through the nook and crannies of this country and you would see smoke and fire on the hilltops in the forest reserve. Smoke and fire, and you as a forestry officer had to wonder what is happening. Our forest reserve, our primary forests were being destroyed for agriculture, particularly the banana industry at the time. People were going into our forest reserve and cut or clear acres and acres of forest to put in bananas and to do what we call agriculture. And I remember being in the area of Dennery, hunting down those persons committing the offenses, the farmers. And I remember going to court several times to ensure that the legislative process takes effect so that those farmers who were cultivating in the forest reserve without permission, the law had to take effect to ensure that they were removed from the forest reserve. And you may ask why? Because at the time, the banana industry, the farmers were making quite a lot of money from the banana industry. And they had to survive. They had to take care of the families. They had to take care of their children's education. And they felt the easiest way to survive was to go into our forest reserve, to clear large tracts or areas of forest to cultivate. But the forestry department at the time, up to now, had the mandate to ensure the forest reserve remains absolutely protected and well managed. And so we went through a rough period during that time because we had to ensure that we protect a resource that we felt that was very, very important for the development of any country, especially water. Today we can boast that we have about 25,000 acres of forest reserve comprising 14 different units. The first forest reserve was established in 1946, the Castries Waterworks Reserve, and the main objective was to ensure that we provide a reliable supply of water to the people who were staying at the time in Castries and environs. The second forest reserve is called the Dennery Waterworks Reserve, and that was established a few years after the Castries Waterworks Reserve, and that was also for the purpose. But since then, we've increased to 14 units of forest reserve. Today, I feel as one who was responsible for management of the forest reserve and also involved in the management and protection of the forest reserve, I am very comfortable now that our forest reserve that we work very hard to protect are reaping tremendous benefits to us. Our forests will always continue to play that significant functions that we depend on daily. I remember in 1980, Hurricane Allen destroyed over 80% of our forest reserve. Our parrot population that was over 1,000 came to less than 100. Our forest was devastated to the point that we were not even sure if most of our wildlife species would survive. And today, when you drive through the rural areas or you see our forested areas, you see very little gaps as a result of deforestation. The gaps you may see are gaps as a result of natural disasters where you had major landslides and natural regeneration is slow in happening, and those gaps exist. But it's because of the hard work, dedication, and commitment of the staff of the Forestry Department, decades past, focusing on ensuring that we protect a resource that is significant to us and will remain a significant resource to any country in the world. When I travel to attend various international meetings and you speak of climate change, there are a number of developed countries who would say that in the last 30, 40 years we cut most of our forests to develop cities, expansion for housing, and now they realize that the lack of forest resources is causing problems in them addressing the issues of climate change. And so they are now going back, planting millions and millions of acres of forest because they realize it's important. Now in St. Lucia, we only have 248 square miles, 616 square kilometers. Ideally, we were supposed to have 25% of our island's forests protected. We are somewhere in the region of 15, 20%. We also know that we have between 35 to 40% of our private forest, but we have very little or no control of it. It is important for us to work with our stakeholders to help manage the forest resources, not only as the forest reserve, but as a country. Because day by day we will see the importance of keeping those forests well managed and protected. In 2010, we lost more than 500 acres of our forest as a result of Hurricane Thomas. And luckily for us, we got funding from the Australian government where we were able to go in and doing all those interventions to assist nature with naturally regenerating those degraded, abandoned areas. Every time it rains heavily, within an hour, you see the results of land degradation in St. Lucia by just taking a look at the rivers. If you can have a sighting of the ocean, you'd see the discoloration in the water, which tells us that something is happening in the upper reaches of our watersheds. And this is why I have been advocating, we've been doing our best as forestry, to say to the Ministry of Infrastructure that the way you desilt your rivers, we must change that approach, because we are addressing the problem in the lower portion of the watershed, but the main source problem area is not being addressed. So we have a lot of work to do, although we've done a lot, but we have a lot of work to do. Because I do not know, I have not read in any literature or anywhere that climate change will come to an end in the next 10 years, or in the next 20 years, or in the next 40 years. based on what I've learned with climate change, I see it getting worse and worse. And this is why the theme for World Water Day is glaciers, glacier preservation. And it is because our ice blocks are melting. And it is because of the temperature increasing. If you have a block of ice, you take it from the fridge and you leave it here inside there, versus putting a piece on the table there, the one that you put on the table there will melt a lot faster because the temperature on the table is a lot higher than inside. So this is what's happening. This is what is happening. We've seen an increase in temperature, sea level rise. And these are issues our young people, our children, they must be educated on. Because they are the future of this country. They are the ones who will replace all of us here today. Who knows, one of these students there, maybe one day the chief forestry officer, the other students in the midst, maybe forest officers, agricultural officers. And so we have to always prepare them for what to expect. And this is why today I must thank the forestry department for engaging the students very often on those international days that we speak to the already converted. I am very happy the teachers and students are here to understand what the forest means to us as a country, what our resources means to us as a country, and why we need to do what is necessary to protect and manage our water resources, our forest resources well. We are experiencing problems with our food import bill, major issues with our food import bill. And just recently, the US indicated that it's going to cut tariffs on a number of our products that comes in and leaves our country. A lot of our inputs for the agricultural sector, for our food production, comes from the US and other countries, or if it does not come directly from the US, it comes from other countries but goes through the US. If those tariffs are implemented, then it can have serious negative impacts, because what it will do will increase the price of the inputs, it will increase the cost of production for the farmers, and the consumers will have to pay more for food. And I'm saying all of this to tell you that we must be prepared to manage what is ours. Every time I drive in the rural areas, I see people just taking a chainsaw and just cutting a tree. And they will tell you, that is not necessary. And they cut it down. But years after, they would come to forestry. They would go to the Ministry of Planning. They would go to the Ministry of Agriculture, because they begin seeing signs of landslides, major soil erosion, and they want assistance to resolve or solve the very same problems that they cause. I want to call on our young people to just give me 1 minute of your time. Do you know this bird? Hello? Hello, our young people, our students, do you know this bird? What is the name of this bird? Very good. Where is it found? Where? That is right. It is. You can only see it in the forest. I don't know if you still have there. I think you have one or two there in the zoo. But the forest is its home. And if we destroy the forest, we are destroying our national bird. I'm sure you not want to see your national bird be extinct. I'm sure you will want to grow and to know that you can visit the forest at any time you want, with permission from the forestry department as well, to see the Amazon fossil, our national bird. And this is why today, you being here is very important. I want, when you leave here, to go to your school, share with your friends, your students, your parents, your sister, everybody in your family, what you learned today as part of World Forest Day and World Water Day.